on my deck eating some steak and eggs. It's actually whitetail deer and eggs. Pretty good. Today we're going to be talking about a little psychology mixed with relational, your relational self. Okay, so I think it's Jeremiah somewhere that God gives us a glimpse of our hearts, and it's not very good. Basically, it says the heart is sick, that the Lord alone sees the good in us, but our hearts are sick. So it's a little grim picture, but basically what I would boil that down to is our hearts, our self, will do everything in its capability to be comfortable and to seek comfort. And that can look like being quiet during situations where you should stand up because you don't want to enter into conflict. It can be holding you back from taking that next step that the Spirit's calling you to do. But basically yourself, in its innate being, will do everything that it possibly can to avoid conflict. And where we see that hurt ourselves is this little thing called self-betrayal and self-deception. And so when you know that you're supposed to do something, or when you're prompted to do something in your inner conscience, or just maybe a thought even, the moment that you don't do that, and it's good, it could be something really good, like I should take out the trash for my family. The moment that you don't do that, it's this term called self-betrayal. Or the moment you know that you should help out when it's easy to do and you don't do it, it's called self-betrayal. And what happens when you do that, when you know that you should do something and you just don't, is your brain will kick off its ability to justify, or what they call self-deceive, is to prove yourself right why you didn't do something. And so I've talked on this a couple times, and the best example that I have comes with understanding what it's like to live with a newborn baby. And so this is an example. This isn't my example. But here's the example of how self-betrayal can lead to self-deceit, which the byproduct of that is not allowing yourself and others to be their true self, that we have to hide behind a facade in order to keep up what we believe about ourselves, which is actually a false self, because we're self-deceiving ourselves. So here's the example. Laying in bed early in the morning, and we'll say Dax, like, because he still doesn't sleep through the night. So we'll use Dax as an example. This isn't my example again, so this is a for instance. But I'm laying in bed and I hear Dax just crying in the next room. And I'm laying there thinking, man, I should really get up and go get him, because it might even be my turn. It might just be because it's the right thing to do. I'm already awake. It might even be because I think that my wife had a hard day. Regardless, I'm thinking this and I don't do it. And so you're laying there and you're hearing this baby cry, and this is what happens. So that's the self-betrayal, is that I don't do what I think I should. Okay. Because I'm tired, so that's okay, right? I can have some grace for myself, but this is what happens. You're laying there and you're like, well, I was gonna get up, but Sarah, that's my wife, why isn't she getting up? Is she fake sleeping, which makes her a liar? Is she thinking that I should do it, so then she devalues me as a husband? Maybe she's a lazy mom, that which makes me a good dad. Is she thinking that I don't do enough? Is she thinking that she's so busy during the day that she gets the right to sleep through him crying? Does she not just care that he's crying, that she's just gonna let him cry? And so all these things that you're thinking in your brain, which are absolutely not true, she actually might just be sleeping and not hear him. But what happens is you start to justify your actions of not getting up with the actions of others around you, which has nothing to do with their actual actions. It's just your mind playing games with you. And you can play that out on any scenario, whether you're getting on an airplane or an elevator, and your mind starts to try to tell itself why you deserve to be in an elevator alone, and why it's okay for the door to close quickly, or why somebody doesn't need to sit by you at the airplane, Or why your roommate doesn't do the dishes. Does my roommate not do the dishes because they think that they're better than me? Does my roommate not do the dishes because they think their day was busier than mine? Do they just not care? Are they a pig? And so all these things, when your roommate might have had the worst day ever, or they might not even be thinking about it. And so it's important to help others be who they are and not for us to pin them who we think they are, or let them voice their opinions and let them talk about their feelings first before we try to figure out what's actually going on and try to figure out the situation before it's actually happened. That's a little relational advice. It's this thing called self-deception, self-deceit. It happens in our everyday walk of being a human, and it's natural to do those things, but it's important to take a step back and think, am I thinking this about that person because of something that's true and actually that they did, or that they have something against me? Or am I trying to self-justify my actions of not taking that next step in relationship with them or being vulnerable with them? And so in trying to not do that, I'm painting them in a different light and making myself look better. So self-deception, self-deceit, it's an amazing little thing. It's a click in your brain to go, is this actually happening, or do I think that this is happening? So make yourself some steak and eggs and think about how you can act in a different way in your relationships by simply thinking, is this going on, or is this just in my